All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Can we all hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. Can we all hear me? All right. Can you hear me? I would love you to actually signify with like an emoji or something. Yes, that's good. That's cool. That's good. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angela Anekwe. I'm an associate at Omaplex Law Firm, and I'm your facilitator for today's OVIP. So, hope we are all having a great time. Hope the sections have all been going well. That's good. That's good. I can see that. Yes. Yes, I can see that. So, in today's section, we'll be talking about sport law. But before we proceed, I would love to get a feedback from yesterday's class section. So I would love few persons to give us a brief overview of what they learned yesterday. I would love a feedback so that I can be convinced that we're really learning. All right, Emmanuel, you can unmute yourself and speak, please. Can we have Emmanuel speak? Hello, everyone. So we're actually experiencing a little bit of a network glitches, but please, we need you all to be patient because we're currently working on it. So Emmanuel, can you unmute yourself now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Hello, can you hear me, ma?
I can hear you, Emmanuel. So
Okay.
the instruction here is I need everybody to mute their mic. Do not unmute unless I instruct you to. Are we clear? So Emmanuel, can you go ahead? Okay, we need feedback from yesterday's class. Please, can you mute yourself? Mute yourself. All right, Emmanuel cannot unmute himself. Please, can we have somebody else?
Okay, I can now. I can.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. See, yesterday we did dispute resolution facilitated by Iyanu Oluwa and Yusuf. Yesterday he took us through the steps to take when Kusuma, can you hear me?
Yes, Emmanuel, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. He took us through the steps when vying for dispute resolution. He told us that there are two major types of dispute resolution, which are litigation and alternative dispute resolution. Means there are different types of alternative dispute resolution, which are mediation, conciliation, arbitration, and others. So, well, we focused mainly on litigation. Now, in litigation, he told us that there are two major applications of litigation: civil suit and criminal suit. Under civil suit, civil actions or civil suits, it majorly involves disputes between two private individuals or others, while criminal actions involve an issue between an individual and the state. majorly. It told us that there are certain steps to be followed when instituting an action. Now, one of them is going to the root of the matter. So, certain issues to be considered before pursuing litigation would be looking at the course of action, finding the proper courts to file processes, looking for possible resolution through ADI, checking use of limitations, looking at the cost of litigation, and many others. He also told us certain instances where, please, ma, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you mute yourself if you're not speaking?
Thank you. Criminal action, for criminal actions, he told us that criminal actions are led by the state. However, there are certain situations whereby private persons can institute criminal matters where they would have to obtain a suit from the Attorney General. So he went further to tell us the different commencing actions in courts, which are the writ of summons, originating motion, and petitions. Um, then went further to explain other things, including the stages in litigation, to explain to us many trial terminologies, explained what is to be expected during examination, cross-examination, and re-examination of witnesses, then final address and the judgment. He concluded by stating the characteristics of a good judge, of a good lawyer, that is the ethical duties of a good lawyer, which included being present in court at all times, observing, acting in the best interest of justice, and keeping the keeping the conversations which he has with his clients confidential, and lastly, avoiding forum shopping, which he explained to be instituting matters in court or other, or doing anything at all which would be a disadvantage to the other party. Thank you, ma.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. That was really comprehensive. And can you all hear me now? Someone else wanted to speak. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. That was really comprehensive, and I'm very impressed. It shows that everybody has been really attentive, and this shows that you all are learning. So today's class, for today's OVIP, we are going to be speaking on sport law, and I'm sure a lot of you are already so happy to hear on sport law today. But we're going to be having a guest speaker today who is going to be speaking to us about sport law. And this is somebody who is an expert in sport law. So I want you all to prepare yourself, fasten your seatbelt, and get ready for today's section. Today's section is going to be indeed interesting one. We're going to be speaking on opportunities, challenges, and career pathways. Did we all get it? Please, I want us to be signifying with the emojis. That's why the emojis are all available. If I unmute you to be able to speak, there will be a lot of noise from the background. So that's why I had to unmute everybody. So today we're going to be speaking on sport law.
When?
When people try, whenever it's break, you have to bring back up this and see, and I find one I'm going to see.
Okay.
On my movie.
Oh, I beg.
All right. Sorry for that interruption. So as I was saying, today's topic on sport law, becoming a sport lawyer. So today we're going to be speaking on becoming a sport lawyer. opportunities, challenges, and career pathway. But we have a guest speaker who will be speaking with us today, and it is no other person but an erudite expert in sport law in the person of Adedeji Ajoje Israel. So I don't know if hello, can we all hear me? All right. So today's speaker is it's no other person but an expert in sport law, which is Adedeji Ajoje Israel. Today is going to be like an interactive session. Yes, it's going to be more like an interactive section. So I would love you all to fasten your seatbelt, prepare your questions. I know so many of you love entertainment law, you love sport law, you just don't want to be an ordinary lawyer. You want to venture into that unique pathway that you love. Some of you have a niche in law, I mean in sport law, and you want to become a sport lawyer. So this is a great opportunity for you. So I want you to be well prepared today as we make welcome Adedeji Ajoje Israel. But before he comes on to speak with us, I need you all to prepare your question because it's going to be more of interactive section, question and answer section. So I want you to make use of the Q&A icon on your screen. Make use of the Q&A icon on your screen. The questions that will be entertained are questions on Q&A icon. If you place your question, if you type your questions on the chat box, I may not respond because there are a lot of messages on the chat box. So I want the only things that will be on the Q&A to be strictly questions. I don't know if you understand. Please, I want us to be signifying with our emojis to show that, yes, we are listening and we're following up. Yes. So before we make welcome our guest speaker for today, I would love to give you a profile of our guest speaker. So I want you all to listen carefully. Adedeji Ajo Israel is a lawyer and a FIFA licensed agent whose career bridges law, sport management, and football development with a passion for creating a commercially viable and structurally sound football industry in Nigeria and Africa at large. He has worked extensively with clients, clubs, and partners across the world to advance the business and development of the game. I hope you're hearing this. So it's not anyhow person that we're bringing for you today. He serves the African Coaches Connect, ACC Global. I don't know how many of you that have heard about ACC Global. If he has also served FIFA, many of you have, of course, you all are conversant with FIFA. He has also served CAF and he has also served the NFF. He's a recognized NFF, a recognized organization of football professionals with over 20,000 members across 120 countries, where he contributes to program development, strategic partnership, legal advisory, and the growth of flagship events such as the African Football Convention. So within the ACC, he also pioneered the Internship and Mentorship Initiative. I'm sure a lot of you are already interested in him being your mentor, of course. So he pioneered the Internship and Mentorship Initiative, connecting young African professionals and aspiring coaches with experienced practitioners across the continent. So as part of his commitment to grassroots football, Israel plays a key role in the Nigerian Youth Football Development League, the NYFDL. Leading is a national marketing campaign, coordinating the work of state chairs, supervising cross-departmental operations, and driving stakeholders' engagement that has provided structured competition and sporting opportunities for hundreds of young players across the country. Israel is also actively involved in the Dare to Dream initiative. I don't know how many of you have heard about the Dare to Dream initiative, and also a pioneering nationwide project designed to give over 18,000 footballers across 600 clubs in Nigeria an opportunity to showcase their talent and take decisive steps toward professional football. The initiative provides a structured platform for sporting mentorship and exposure, bridging the gap between grassroots players and professional opportunities while strengthening Nigeria's football pipeline. Through his work with the ball business, a sports management and consulting company, he has advanced sustainable pathways for emerging talent and partnered with key stakeholders to grow football projects. He also supports the growth of
I think I the small girl, she's a graduate.
So beyond organizational roles, Israel leverages his legal background to provide contract advisory, regulatory compliance, and risk management services to football entities, ensuring professionalism and accountability in their operations. Guided by a deep conviction that football in Africa can be both a global export and a sustainable commercial industry, Israel continues to drive initiatives that blend talent development, business innovation, and governance reforms, positioning him as one of the forward-looking voices shaping the future of African football. So why are we not clapping? I need us to be clapping.
Yeah. Who is looking for me?
So everybody, interestingly, we're going to be introducing our second speaker. I did not even see your emojis clapping for your first speaker. Do you know today you are greatly favored today because you're going to be having an erudite expert in sport law, two erudite experts in sport law. So we're going to be introducing our second speaker, and our second speaker is no other person but Barrister Ayodeji Ayeleru. Barrister Ayodeji Ayeleru. So guys, I'm going to be introducing him by giving you his profile. So Barrister Ayodeji Ayeleru is an international sport lawyer who earned his LLB degree from the University of Ibadan before proceeding to the Nigerian Law School, where he obtained his BL. He later pursued an LLM in international sport law at ISBE and Business School in Madrid, Spain, with over 5 years of experience in grassroots football and 2 years in sport law. He currently works at legal counsel at Dare to Dream Sports Management Limited. So ladies and gentlemen, let's make way for our wonderful speakers for today. Let us put our hands together with a clapping, ovation emoji, ovation. Let's big welcome our wonderful speakers. Please, can we have our speakers introduced?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Israel Adedeji Ajoje. Yeah, and it's a very, very huge privilege to be here. I'll be talking to us. I really am elated at the prospect of talking to you and hearing and being able to answer your questions on matters that are bothering you in the sports industry. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Israel. Please, can we have our second speaker introduce himself to us?
Hi. Can you hear me?
So we can hear you, sir.
Okay, great. So I'm Ayodeji Ayeleru. You definitely massacred my name, which is fine. So I'm happy to be here today, and I would love this session to be really interactive. I know you said that most questions should go to the question and answer box, but I would rather hear people's voices and let's just discuss. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Ayodeji, I sincerely apologize for that. I sincerely apologize for that. So, so guys, from what Mr. Ayodeji has said, he would really love to hear you guys' voices. But my problem is the fact that some persons just leave their mics on and it's interrupting the section. And that would not make the sections to go very well. So when Mr. Ayodeji will want you to speak, please, I would love every other person to keep their mic mute so that we can hear just one person, please. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Israel, please, we will first love you to please give us a general overview on the topic for today while the students prepare their questions and get ready.
Okay, thanks very much, facilitator. I will try to be as brief as possible because I want to ensure that whatever it is that I'm saying addresses the questions on the minds of the interns. And I believe that Ayodeji is my very, very good friend, by the way. He's based in Madrid, Spain, and he's doing great in international sports law. So I believe that he shares the same disposition. So I want to crave your indulgence, towards that end. So I will try to talk within 15, 20 minutes max while we spend, and I hope is able to do that while we spend the remaining time answering your questions. So the first thing that I think everybody should know about sports law is that the sports industry is a world of its own. Just like I believe I'm talking to lawyers, so just like the way there is the world itself. So the way there is the world itself, the way there is Nigeria, for example, Nigeria has an executive body, a legislative body, and a judicial body. In that same, that we agree or that we all think, believe to be the government of the country. That same structure exists in the sports industry. So it is it is the same principles that govern that govern.
Dash, kasi ka nga, tiga, dash. Welcome so much.
Protocol of my bad.
Welcome.
We're very, very sorry for that, Mr. Israel. We are
It's
so
fine.
sorry for that.
It's fine, ma. Thanks very much. So it is the same principles that govern corporate governance. The way there is the Companies and Allied Matters Act, or the same way there is the Constitution of Nigeria. The football industry, the sports industry, has its own. So for football, for example, it is FIFA. The executive body is the FIFA Council. The legislative body is the FIFA Congress. The judicial body is just the FIFA judicial bodies themselves. So that same thing exists. And the same way there is the private and public sector of operations in, in the real world, something like that exists in the football or the sports industry as well. I'm very, very sorry. I'm most familiar with the laws of football and tennis. So those are the examples that I will be using the most. And by extension, I know that the laws of sports are guided by the same fundamental principles. So I know that we can extrapolate them into the other sports. Ayodeji, for example, has some knowledge of badminton and others, and F1 and all of those. But I am most grounded in football and tennis. So like I said, there is all of this. So the same way, in your world, in our world, we have human rights, we have corporate law, we have IP, we have all of those. All of those exist in the sports industry as well. So I felt a very, very big need, a huge need to explain that to us as the foundation. So one thing that I also need us to know is if you want to be venturing into the sports industry, if you are a fan of litigation, I'm very, very sorry, the sports industry is not for you. The sports industry is not for you. The sports industry is largely hinged on conciliation, arbitration, conciliation, mediation, negotiation than other dispute resolution mechanisms like that. Litigation does not have a very, very huge place in the football industry, and this is why, in the sports industry, and this is why. Um, Using football as an example, a footballer's career starts around 18 years or so, and max, like on a general level, it ends by say 30, 31. The very, very few guys are able to push as far as 35. In fact, according to Fifth Pro, which is a body of footballers that is heavily affiliated to FIFA, the average span of a footballer's career is 7 years. That's the average span of a footballer's career. So think of many litigation cases that especially in Nigeria, for example. Some of them go as far as 10, 20, 25 years. So if you are initiating a case using if you're trying to resolve a dispute using the litigation mechanism, and say maybe the issue borders on a contract between a player and a football club, and the player has 7 years in his career, you spend 10 years trying to resolve the matter. What is the justice that is done in that case? Going by a very, very popular Latin maxim, I don't know I'm not Latin, I can only speak English. So it says that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. And there is also an axiom that says that justice delayed is justice denied. If I am a footballer, I'm starting my career now, and I have a contractual issue that doesn't let me go back to playing football for 10 years, when the length of my career is 7 years, I would not have experienced justice. So that is why arbitration, negotiation, and conciliation and mediation are the best dispute resolution um, techniques that exist in the world of sports today. As a matter of fact, the same way we have the Supreme Courts in Nigeria, there is a court like that in the sports industry. It is called the Court of Arbitration for Sports. It is based in Lausanne, Switzerland. And from the name, you can see that the core of its operation is arbitration, Court of Arbitration for Sports. Cases in the Court of Arbitration for Sports ideally should not last more than 6 months. So that way, matters involving the players can and should be easily resolved before much happens. So that is that for the career part. So you might need if you are a litigant, I don't think sports is the best career path for you. Now, there are other things that you might need to consider if you want to go into the football industry or the sports industry. Like I said, I don't know if you can still hear me. If you can hear me, please signify with an emoji, please. Okay. Thank you very much, Angela, and thanks very much, Chidera. Yeah. So, the same modus operandi in the outside world, like I said, it applies in the football world. So, the same way we have company lawyers in the outside world, we have those in the football world. So if you're a lawyer, for example, and you work with Manchester United, the same guiding principles that govern company law govern you, right? The same like if you have just any regular company, right? The same laws that govern regular companies govern you. That is one. Then regulatory principles that govern the industry will now apply to you. So if you want to be a sports lawyer, you might first need to be a generalist. You might need to understand the general principles of law, know the general legal positions, and then you might now start to find out what the regulatory principles of the football industry are. For example, I happen to be an international sports player and a FIFA licensed agent. So many people, Stephanie, CAS means Court of Arbitration for Sports. Court of Arbitration for Sports is in Lausanne, Switzerland. what was I saying? Yeah. So an example of some of these guiding and regulatory principles is that if you are a football agent, you know, there are principles of contracts, for example. So if you want to sign a contract, contracts have the elements of a contract are an offer, acceptance, consideration, capacity. Now, those principles exist outside of sports. Now, the same principles now exist in sports. However, they are laws that govern the application of those principles. So, for example, if Stephanie and I, or yes, let me use Stephanie now because Stephanie is the only person whose name I know now. If Stephanie and I outside of football can have a contract in perpetuity that says we will be partners, we are going to establish a company together, or we'll be partners. You have your company, I have my company, we are going to come together to do this, and the contract is going to last in perpetuity for 10 years, 20 years, or whatever the number of years. But in football, for example, there are some contracts that cannot last more than a certain amount of time. One of those contracts is a representation agreement between a player and an agent. So if as an agent that as I am now, I want to sign a player, I want a player to be my client, the contract of representation between me and that client cannot be more than 2 years. And as a matter of fact, even if we make it more than 2 years, after the second year, the contract will expire by a fluxion of time. A fluxion of time. EFFLUXION. So those are some of the things that you might need to get yourself geared up for if you want to venture into the sports industry. You know, get familiar with the guiding principles of sports or the football industry or the sports industry. So there are different kinds of aspects of practice that you can be in as a sports lawyer. You could be a company lawyer. If you're a company lawyer, you could, like, if you're a lawyer and you work with Manchester United, for example, like I said, you have to know the company laws of the United Kingdom because that's where Manchester United is based. Then you now have to know the principles of FIFA, that's Federation, International Federation of Football. You must know that of UEFA, the European Federation of Football, and then you must know that of England, the English FA. So you must be familiar with all of those laws to ensure compliance. So you know, as a company, if you're a company lawyer, especially if you work in-house, you are very likely to be a compliance officer. So you have to ensure that the regulatory provisions of the industry that you are in are properly followed. And that would apply the same way it applies to clubs, is the same way it applies to football federations. So the same way you are a Man U fan, for example, Man U fan, Chelsea fan, Arsenal fan, Liverpool fan, you know, countries have their own representative body as well. So in Nigeria now, the senior team is called the Super Eagles. The junior team, under 20 is called Flying Eagles, under 17 is called Golden Eaglets. It is the same thing for the female team. They are called Super Falcons. The under 17, I think they're called Flying Falcons or something, Flamingos. And then under 17, I can't remember. But all of these guys are supervised by the NFF, the Nigerian Football Federation. So you could be a lawyer for the Nigerian Football Federation as well. And if you're a lawyer for the Nigerian Football Federation, you have to ensure that the clubs under the Nigerian Football Federation or whatever federation you are comply with the laws that you have created, the policies that you have created, if you understand what I mean. So there are two sides to it. So I think since we are using Man U, we should continue with Man U. So Man U is in England. So the equivalent of a federation in England would be the FA. So it is like, let me see, it's like, let me see, Ministry of Petroleum and Shell. So Shell, let's assume that we are working in the oil industry now. Shell would be a company. So Shell is the equivalent of Manchester United. You know, if you work with Shell, you have to be conversant with the oil and gas laws and all of those. And you have to be conversant with the laws that agencies of the Ministry of Petroleum create so that you can follow the laws. So if you are working with the Ministry of Petroleum, let's say the Ministry of Petroleum now would now be the NFF, or in England's case, the FA. So if you are working with the Ministry of Petroleum, you have to ensure that Shell or Cornwall or or what's the name of all these other oil companies, Aradale, NLNG, and all of those, that they follow the laws that you have created. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So that is how it is. So I want to give you an example of how it plays out in practice. Let me show you how it plays out in practice. So currently, for those of you that are familiar with football, there was a time during the World Cup qualifiers that South Africa fielded a player. So according to those of you that are not familiar with football, if a player gets a red card in a match, he should not feature in the next match, right? So a South African player got a red card and then he was featured in the next match. Thank you, Olatunji Mokoena. So if you are a lawyer for the South African national team now, if you are a lawyer for the South African national team, it will be your duty to remind the coach that this player has a red card. He should not play the next match. That is you being a compliance officer, right? And if you work with FIFA, your own will now be South Africa has a match. They have fielded the player with a red card, and they should ensure they should be punished for that. So you can see how it plays out in practice. So it is lawyers that do all of these things. They draft the laws, they create the laws, and all of those. And all of this is still bordering on public governance. In private practice, for example, those of you that are familiar with the football industry, there is the UEFA Financial Fair Play provisions. There's in England, it is called PSR. That's the profitability and sustainability rules. So the laws are there. The finance officers or the lawyers of a football club are to ensure that they follow those laws, right? And if the laws are not followed, the lawyers of the other organization of the regulatory body are to ensure that those that do not follow them are properly punished. So all of this border on football law. I don't have enough time. I would have been able to do a better breakdown. I mean, from introduction to body to conclusion, but I am trying to, fix everything into 20 minutes because we don't have much time. So that is how it is. Then there is also just commercial practice, sponsorships. If you work with Nike, for example, or if you're a representative of a player, you get sponsorships for your player, for your clients, negotiate deals with them. So the deals run into millions of dollars. Player contract, basic contract and transfers. It is your job. Intellectual property, image rights, broadcasting. For example, there are laws that govern those of you that watch Premier League or Super Sport. There is a whole set of laws that govern the rights of Super Sports to air those matches. So they border on IP. So, like I said earlier, the same laws that govern the outside world are the same laws that govern apply to sports, but there are just certain nuances in the application. So you must be familiar with, you have to decide the path you want to go to anyway. You must be familiar with labor and employment, integrity issues, match fixing, betting, disciplinary proceedings, immigration. So an example of very, very strong immigration countries that immigration lawyers, sports immigration lawyers eat good is in England. So you can't just go and play football in England. England has very, very strong immigration laws covering their football industry. And let me tell you why. I will try to just hit the nail on the head. So for those of you that remember Sancho, Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham, Sancho was he was a player in Manchester City, and then he left Manchester City to go to Dortmund in Germany. So when he got to Germany, he played good football, and another club in England wanted to bring him back to England. So they had to pay almost 80 million pounds to get him back to England. Now, that 80 million pounds, if the money, like Dortmund would have to pay taxes on that 80 million pounds because it was income earned, right? So they would have had to pay taxes. And but because the club that Sancho came from, he was coming from Germany into England, the taxes were paid to the German government and not to the English government. So the English government now now has certain laws that prohibit players from playing. Like you can't leave England anyhow if you're an English player, and you can't come into England anyhow if you are not an English player. So if you want to play football in England, as like if you want to play in the Premier League, you must have played certain number of matches for your national team. If you have not, you will not be given a visa to play football in England. So those of you that remember Taiwo Awoniyi played under 20 for Nigeria, and then Liverpool bought him. But he did not play one match for Liverpool because he never got a visa. He wasn't having enough appearances in the Nigerian national team. So it was when he got enough appearances in the Nigerian national team that Nottingham Forest now bought him, and he was able to play with Nottingham Forest. So those certain, there are all of those rules, there are nuances around it. I'm very, very sorry that I'm just glossing over it. I'm not giving you details, but these are the situations, these are the opportunities that exist. And I'm sorry that I have used England as the biggest example. The same rules apply in Nigeria as well. Nigeria has a court of its own. The NFF has a court of its own. It's called the Dispute Resolution Chambers, NFF DRC. So if you have a matter that borders on sports, instead of taking it to the high court where to spend 10 years, you will be advised to take it to the NFF DRC. Although you know the way Nigeria is, sometimes there are slight nuances to their modus operandi, but you can appeal decisions of the NFF DRC to the FIFA DRC, the FIFA Dispute Resolution Chambers, and then to the Court of Arbitration for sports. So yeah, and just to speak about the opportunities, Nigeria does not have a very, very solid football structure yet, so there is a lot of opportunities, right? So Ayodeji, for example, aside his work with Dare to Dream, he works with a sports consultancy that does a lot of consulting for countries in Asia and Oceania, basically talking about Saudi Arabia, the PIF, the Petroleum Investment Fund in Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Asia generally, China, and all of those. So it is easy for young people like us, like you and I now, to get into, the industry like that in Africa. It is easier to do it in Africa than to do it in Europe because those structures already exist. There's very, very little problem for you to solve. But if you're in Nigeria, there's a lot of problems to solve. So there are academies that don't have lawyers. There's something I would have liked to talk about: solidarity mechanism and training compensation. Hopefully we have some time later to talk about it. Or I don't know if Ayodeji has had that in mind. So there are a lot of clubs in Nigeria that are missing out on their training rewards. You can help them file for those training rewards. And the training rewards sometimes runs into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you could help them get those. You could help companies register with NFF. There is something called FIFA Connect and TMS, that's transfer matching system. You could help people create that. You could help people, you could represent people in, there is a case that I'm currently working on with Ayodeji, of course, in the Court of Arbitration for Sports. A coach was sacked very, very recently, about 2 years ago. He was sacked without being paid out. So in football, let me just say this and round up with this. I'm very, very sorry for talking too much. But in football, contracts must have terms. If a company wants to employ someone, instead of employing them in perpetuity, there must be a length of time for the contract. Sometimes the least period is 6 months. So it can span up to 5 years. It should not be more than 5 years. Ideally, it should not be more than 5 years. There are people that do more than 5 years. There's a way to go about it. But ideally, it should not be more than 5 years. Now, the way it works is this. If you and I have a 5-year agreement, right? And one of us, maybe after 2 years, one of us now decides, oh, I don't want to go forward with this agreement anymore. You can't just end the contract. You have to pay the other party the equivalent of how much you would have paid them had the contract not been terminated prematurely. So, for example, if we have an agreement that I would work with you for 2 years and you'll be paying me 1 million per month for those 2 years, that means that over 2 years, you'll be paying me 24 million naira. And say after 3 months, you feel you don't want to go ahead with the contract anymore, that you want to end it. That means that if you are terminating that agreement, you must give me you know, you must have paid me 3 million naira for the first 3 months. You must give me the remaining money for that contract, the remaining 21 million naira. So there are a lot of coaches and players whose contracts have been terminated like that without being given that money. So you could find them and represent them in the dispute resolution chambers. The point is, there are a lot of opportunities that exist in the Nigerian football space. A lot of countries do not have proper policy, sports policies. You can write them for them. Some of them do not have properly articulated establishment laws. You could consult in rewriting. The point is just the African space has a lot of opportunities for young and budding sports players like us. So there is a lot of things that I would have liked to say, but I'm bound by privilege and confidence. I can't divulge confidential information, but those are the kind of opportunities that exist. Thanks very much. I hope that I have been able to shed some more light. I know that Ayodeji will do a better job than I have consolidating the things that I have said. But thanks very, very, very much.
Why are we not clapping? Why are we not clapping? I want to be seeing the fire emojis. I want to be seeing you clapping. This is wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate this. So while the questions keep coming on the Q&A, and also for those that will still eventually will be muted to ask questions, we would love to hear Mr. Ayodeji speak to us before we move to the question and answer section. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayodeji.
Thank you. So hi everyone. Just to be honest, Israel has said a lot. He has said a lot already, but I will try as much as possible to say cover things that he might have left out based on time. So what is sports law? I would say that sports law is like, say, basically bringing together different aspects of law. So like contract law, labor law, different aspects of law, basically. But there's a major thing that we have to look at, which is lex sportiva. So now, what is lex sportiva? Lex sportiva is like, say, a body of principles, laws, regulations, case laws that come from, say, international sport organizations and arbitral tribunals. So he has mentioned CAS, and CAS is the Court of Arbitration for Sports. So now, speaking about regulations, there's every sports organizing body or every sport organization have their regulations, basically. So the FIFA is for football. FIFA has like FIFA statutes. The Badminton World Federation has like various procedures, judicial procedures, and also their statutes. The FIBA has its own. FIBA is for basketball in Europe, because NBA is different for America. And so an example of this regulation is the FIFA statutes, is the FIFA's regulation on status and transfer of players. With case laws are very, very important. And most of it come from, I would say the most important of it come from Court of Arbitration for Sports. So I don't know if we know the case of Caster Semenya. So Caster Semenya is a South African runner. She at a point, she basically went against the World Athletics regulation. The regulation stated that, or states that, if you have a very high level of testosterone, then you have to take medication to basically suppress it in order to be able to compete in athletics, basically. So when it went to CAS, CAS upheld the regulation. Why? They said even though it was discriminatory, it was fair. Even though it was discriminatory, rather, it was reasonable. And so it basically promotes fairness in women athletics. You understand? So the issue now is that with that being upheld, that means that regulation will keep on going. It's exactly the same thing with the Bosman ruling. So what's the Bosman ruling? The Bosman ruling is the reason why free players that are out of contract in football, can now join another club without any fee being paid to their former clubs. So these are, say, judicial precedents that come from, Bosman ruling came from the European Court of Justice, not CAS. So these are precedents that make up what we call the lex sportiva. So there are actually a lot of opportunities in sports, to be very honest, apart from the fact that you can just be a basic lawyer. Then Israel said something about how litigation might not be, say, the best suit in sports law. Maybe, and maybe not. The reason why I'm saying that is that even if you are saying going to CAS, for example, you would have hearings. I think to a certain extent, if you love litigation, then you'll be able to say, show a little bit of your passion there. Also, as the FIFA tribunal. So the FIFA tribunal is like, say, three bodies. There's the DRC, Dispute Resolution Chamber. There's the PSC, Player Status Chamber, and there's, what's the last one? The one regarding agents chamber. So those are the three. So if you are going to the DRC, then you are going there for, say, contractual matters. But everything basically matters on the jurisdiction. So a coach cannot go to DRC even though it is based on contractual matter, because by FIFA's regulation, you have to go to the PSC for that. That's where the jurisdiction is. I think that's Annex 2 of the FIFA RSTP. And anything relating to agents is going straight to the agents chamber. So Israel, for example, now, if he has any issue, then he has to go to the agents chamber. One thing I would like to actually point out is that, so let's talk about what the standard of proof is. Because a lot of us know standard of proof as different things, especially people really interested in criminal law. We always hold on to the reasonable doubt one. But so we can see there are some, say, criminal issues in sports. For example, doping, for example, that's a very good one. Doping is regulated by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA. So it is not particularly criminal, but even there, the standard of proof is not beyond reasonable doubt. So it is usually beyond comfortable satisfaction. In sports, majorly, they are comfortable satisfaction, balance of probabilities, and, well, there's one with BAT. So BAT is the Basketball Arbitral Tribunal, and the one with BAT is actually very funny because it is called Eseque Bono, and it basically means that so everything is based on equity and fairness. So their own is kind of a bit different. But the way to point them out or differentiate them is that when it is related to doping, corruption, match fixing, ethics, things like that, it is going to be comfortable satisfaction. And when it is based on, say, contractual matters, employment, then some kind of selected disputes, then it will be balance of probabilities. So, like I was saying, as regards sports law in general, you will have to be interested in a lot of different laws, to be very honest. So, contract law is like your number one go-to. Then intellectual property is actually very, very good because it will always come in handy, because even in your contracts, you need to put some clauses or even draft a whole new contract for that on its own regarding football, employment, whatever it is. So not just football itself. Then labor law is very good. Agency, you have to understand the fiduciary relationship between athletes, agents, teams, and you yourself as a lawyer with every other person. And earlier, I noticed that you were talking about dispute resolution from what you did yesterday. So that's actually very, very important in sports law because, like Israel said, there's not a lot of things that you will go to the civil courts for. The reason is that a lot of time they actually don't have jurisdiction. Sometimes they do. For example, by the FIFA RSTP, it will tell you that except in the case that you go to the civil court, you have to go by this to go to either DRC, either the PSC or the FIFA agent, whatever it is. But the major advice is that when you are drafting a contract, make sure that you put like an ADR clause in it. So that ADR clause is like basically your savior, because you can basically put anything that you like there. So you can put it there that you want it to be at maybe a dispute resolution chamber in Nigeria, situated in Lagos, situated in Abuja. You can put that if it is favorable for you. You can put it if it is football related that you want it to go to the FIFA GRC if they have jurisdiction, the PSA, whatever it is. Or you can even put it, the say the umbrella one for most people is like, let's go to CAS. So CAS is Court of Arbitration for Sports, but CAS is actually very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. So for you to say institute an action in CAS from like the very onset, you have to pay like 1,000 Swiss francs from like the very onset. So apart from that, you still have to pay like advance cost based on how the case proceeds. So CAS can be very, very expensive. Then a key thing in sports law is actually international law. So like Israel said, if you are going to be working with, say, a particular club, player, wherever it is in a jurisdiction, you have to understand the national law from that part. Then you have to understand what the sport regulation itself says. So, say for example, if you are going to be working in football, you have to understand the national law of that country. You understand? Then you have to know what the football regulation says based on what you are working on. So I have the opportunity or the privilege to actually sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Atete, you can continue. Thank you. Just an interruption from the student.
Okay. What was I saying? Yeah, so I have the opportunity of working with a man who is actually very, very, he's a important person in the football world. So a lot of the FIFA regulations, he drafted them or edited them at some point. Also, the AFC's Asian Football Confederation, just like CAF is that of Africa. So, and not just in football, for example, he also has the opportunity to work in various other sports. So, working with him, I've actually seen a lot of things where there are laws that you never knew existed, but just because you are working in something, you have to go and learn it. So that's basically how it works with the international laws. So you have to make sure that you you are basically up to date with everything. So you have to keep to date, and laws change. They change so fast, so fast. So sometimes regarding internship, for example, you can give like say students or participants in the internship some task, and they use ChatGPT or maybe context AI, whatever it is that they use, and it is giving them, say, regulations from like 2014, 2016, 2017, even 2022 might be too old. So that's how crazy it is. And when this submits that back to you, you are like, no, this is not what the law says. You have to go back and always read what the regulation says. So no matter what they tell you about it, what you heard about it, you always have to go back and check. For example, a lot of people believe that Russia is suspended. So Russia is suspended by FIFA. That means they don't hold the membership rights of a member association of FIFA, but it is wrong. And you wouldn't know that unless you read the CAS decision. The reason is that most of the news outlets will tell you that, oh, Russia is suspended, but no, Russia is actually suspended from what? They are suspended from competing in FIFA competitions and also UEFA competitions. But it doesn't mean Russia cannot play friendly with Nigeria. It doesn't mean the Russians' domestic league is not currently running. Because what do they have to do? They have their membership rights. And for their membership rights to still remain, I think they have to pay maybe like 400 Swiss francs. That's all they need, and they still get all the rights apart from the rights to play in those competitions. So if you don't read the regulations, the CAS decisions, or whatever it is, you won't know all this. So it is very, very important to do that. I would say that apart from say contracts, for example, now you need to say have a very, very say have a love for negotiation. Let me put it like that. So you need to understand that in sports you are going to be negotiating a lot. So there are even cases that you would like to actually take before a tribunal, but in the best interest of your clients, you need to understand that, um, we can actually settle this out of any arbitration. You understand? Because there's no win or lose in sports law. That's what I would like to say. There's no win or lose. So, for example, I mean, I cannot share so much because of confidentiality, but so I was in a FIFA disciplinary case recently. And I mean, at the end of the case, the decision was good for us. At least the client was happy. Let me put it like that. But it was not particularly a win. The reason is that the client, can I share this? So the client was basically charged with an offense, and the offense was say sexual harassment. It was not sexual harassment, but I'm just saying. So let's say it was sexual harassment, and immediately it happened. Let's say the very after a day or two, they already interviewed him without telling him what the offense was. By like the fifth day, they had already suspended him, provisional suspension in quotes. They didn't give any charge. In the provisional suspension and say the old file that they brought out, they still didn't charge him. So he was suspended for what, 90 days. Now the idea is that if you are suspended for 90 days, that's some like 3 months in reality. Then when we took the case on, the idea was that the best thing to do is because the guy felt that he didn't do what they said he did, right? So the sense in it now is that it is not a winning case. It is not a winning case because obviously even before the case started, they already decided what they were going to do to you. That's the reality. So in sports law, you understand that some cases are not winning cases, but you will take some kind of wins. So at the end of the day, the decision that we finally got from the DC, that's the disciplinary committee, was that so they suspended him, but they suspended him for the time of the initial provisional suspension. So the provisional suspension was for 90 days, and the suspension they gave him was from then till the end of that suspension. So at the end of the day, they still felt that he was guilty of what they alleged of him, but just for the fact that his suspension doesn't go beyond that, because for example, using sexual harassment cases, we've seen case of people get like 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, or whatever it is. I mean, maybe some are aggravated because we saw that of the Spanish president live on TV. So maybe some are aggravated more than others, but that's just for sexual harassment. So there are a lot of other disciplinary issues that could come up. So you would realize that some cases you just can't win. So you can't win, and you have to take like say the next best thing. So that's why when you are filing some even contractual disputes, you always see that it is advisable to put like an alternative. So even though you are denying what maybe the complainant said, the appellant said, or whatever it is, you are also saying that on the alternative, if the tribunal or the chamber believes what the person says, then this is what the result should be. So like a compensation kind of thing. So talking about the FIFA DRC now, there are always a lot of mitigating factors, a lot, a lot. So as a sports lawyer, you need to realize all this and put them into the considering factors that you have to use in everything that you are filing. So regulatory compliance is actually very, very important. In Nigeria, I think that's where the money is, regulatory compliance. And the reason is that a lot of things are not working in Nigeria. So in order to make them, for example, the National Dispute Resolution Chamber that Israel has mentioned now does not particularly function. I mean, it does function, but like it does not function, if you get what I mean. So in order to make all this work, we just have to make sure that the regulatory compliance is actually, say, 100%. So Israel was also talking about the solidarity mechanism and the compensation and the likes. The reason why a lot of it is not going so well for Nigerian clubs, for example, is that they've not complied with a lot of regulations. So a lot of them are not even well registered. Speaking about that, the man I also work with is on the chair of the FIFA clearinghouse. So when you see it from the inside, you understand that even though FIFA is not particularly paying out the money, it's not exactly their fault. And the reason is that a lot of clubs, academies, they don't even register with the national FA. That's like the most basic thing that you have to. You are selling player from Nigeria to Europe, and you're not even registered under your own FA. So what are you doing? You understand? So I think if you want to start out very small and you're looking at FIFA clearing as a starter, it's very, very good. Because the basic thing is just that, say, send out a lot of letters to academies that you know, clubs that they might not even be, I mean, if they are playing NLO, NNL, that means they are registered. So a lot of them are not even doing that. Then when you just send that out, you just make sure that you help them with all. Some are not even CAC registered. That's how crazy it is. So at the end of the day, it is down to their fault more than FIFA not paying the money. Because if FIFA gets all the right information, they will pay it out. As long as the TMS and everything is there, then they will do that. So I feel that opportunities in sports. Sorry, I hope I've not taken a lot of time.
Okay, you can just go on for 5 minutes or so, then we can take questions because we need time to take questions as well. Thank you so much.
My bad, my bad. So opportunities in sports law, I would say that apart from, say, boutique sport law firms, you have to look at the normal law firms as well that have like departments in sports law. So some of them have like really good departments and some are just trying to start out. I mean, this is what 275 people on this meet right now. So you can imagine a lot of people want to be sport lawyers. So that's how fast I would say that it is developing in not just Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. Then governing bodies are also a very good thing to look at. What else? In-house. I think in-house is actually very important because I also work in-house. And the reason is that so in-house gives you a little bit more opportunities to do a lot of things. Then a lot of things people are looking out now is that with in-house you can basically touch a lot of things like esports law. You can touch I would say technology, data privacy, even for ladies, for example, now gender equality, equity, inclusivity, whatever it is they want to call it. So all those things are opportunities in sports law. But the major challenges that I would say is that so there's like a very high competition for very limited roles. So as much as everybody wants to like excel in it, we still have to like pick out, say, various sports that we have to look at. Because in football, for example, football is crazy saturated, like crazy. So if you are considering only football, then it might be a bit difficult and you have to do a lot of things for free, and not just in law itself but like in sports in general, because the most important thing is to first put yourself in that environment. So when you put yourself in that environment, then you can say sell yourself better, that, oh, apart from what I'm doing for you right now, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. So I think that's all. That's what I would like to say. So thank you for having me. I'm sorry if I took a lot of time, and I would really enjoy if I heard people's voices asking questions, a lot of questions. So because I mean, there are 274 people here now, so there should be a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayodeji. We really appreciate this. This is wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Israel. This is wonderful. We really appreciate this. So I'm going to give time for us to ask some questions. So if you have a question, I would love you to signify with your emoji so that you can be unmuted and you can ask your question. All right. Abdusalam Arafat. Abdusalam Arafat, we're going to take you, so you can unmute yourself. Please, I don't want any other person to unmute. Only Abdusalam should unmute himself. Thank you so much. The rest, you can hold on with your questions. He will attend to everybody.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Absalam Arafat. I'm a student of Christian, a graduation student from Christian University. So, firstly, I want to thank and appreciate the fellow baristas that created on this session, because as an associate, I didn't even know half of what I was taught here, but I want to thank them. And following up to my question, I basically want to make reference to what Barrister Israel has made mention of. He made mention of the principle that where a contract is terminated, right, the person should still be paid the amount you have been paid if it has not been terminated. So as lawyers, we work with more of evidence. So I want to ask if there's any statutory or any judicial authority to such principle. That will be all.
Sorry, Mr.
Okay, yes.
Israel, question.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much, Mr. Arafat, for that question. So, the guiding principle of this is hinged on the FIFA regulation on the status and transfer of players. The FIFA regulation on status and transfer of players talks about largely protects players and coaches. FIFA regulation on the status and transfer of players. So if you look through, I'm trying to remember the particular article. I know Ayodeji may be able to help me with it, but I think it's Article 13 and Article 14. So they talk about termination of contracts. So there are principles around termination of contracts in football for players and coaches. So there are two ways. There's termination of contract with just cause, and there's termination of contract without just cause. So if a contract is terminated with just cause, then nobody is entitled to payment. But if the contract is terminated without just cause, then there can be there has to be payment for that, except the person that's the victim of the wrong action decides to forego his rights or waive his right to receive those payments. So I think it is Article 14 of the regulation of status and transfer of players, I think. So there are principles around overdue payables and all of those. So termination of contract without just cause. The regulation on the status and transfer of players is the one that makes provisions for that. Without just cause.
Without just cause,
Just
can you use
cause.
it as an exception? Like because you said with just cause, then without just cause. Like, is there a line for an exception to such principle?
It is not an exception per se, because there is an article that covers just cause and there is an article that covers lack of just cause. So let me give you an example of just cause. Ada is it is regulation on the status and transfer of players. Regulation on the status and transfer of players. Regulation on the status and transfer of players. I think I don't have a problem with you guys reaching out to me via LinkedIn or mail. I could drop my mail in. My mail is right in your DM. I can send some copies of these laws to you, and I'm sending my number as well. Should I send my number? I think I should send my number. There's no problem with that. But you might have to forgive me if I respond to you late or I don't respond immediately. So I've given you my number. So I have a copy of some of these laws. Yeah, regulation on the status and transfer of players. So Article 13, I think Article 13 is the one that talks about just cause. The termination with just cause. Article 14 talks about termination without just cause. So one of the examples of termination with just cause is, as a player, if you are with a football club and if the football club does not pay you salary for 2 months, then they can terminate your salary with just cause without paying you anything. I mean, you can terminate without paying them anything. Do you understand? You can terminate without paying them anything. However, if you as a player, if a club, for example, does not play you in up to, is it 5%? I think 5% or 10% of their matches in a season, you can also terminate the contract with just cause. But aside these two provisions, most of the other terminations will be without just cause. So they cannot terminate your contract if you are underperforming. They cannot terminate your contract if you are not playing well. They cannot terminate your contract, all of those things. It is either, it has to be around these reasons, right? So, yeah. I don't know if I answered the question, Mr. Arafat.
Yes, sir. But sir, I hope that there's no overriding law to it because the principle itself carries great magnitude. Because you are saying basically that when a person contract has been terminated, he should still be paid for that in which he didn't work for. So I hope that this principle does not have any other overriding statutory or judicial authority. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. I really don't think that there is an overriding. There might be modifying statutory authorities, but I don't think there is an overriding statutory authority because till today it is still in practice. Let me give you an example. Let me see. If a football club, for example, Arafat, do you support any football club?
Yes, I'm a Barca fan.
You are a Barca fan. Okay. So if Barca decides to sack Hansi Flick today, the remaining amount of his contract, they will still pay him. They have to. Or they will negotiate an amount that is convenient with two of them. When Manchester United sacked Ten Hag, they paid him $25 million. Ten Hag of Manchester United. Do you understand? It is a principle that still applies to football. Maybe they change it this morning, I don't know. There might be modifying principles to that law. It is not even a principle, it is a law created by FIFA. Okay, yes, Ayodeji, please.
If I can add, so there's this principle called pacta sunt servanda, and that's basically
yes.
follows. What it says that as long as both parties agree to the contract, they have to see out the contract. That's by, I think, maybe Article 13 of the FIFA RSTP. So what it basically says is that if both parties agree to a contract and one party or either of the parties does not have just cause to terminate the contract unilaterally, that means they have to see out the contract. So in a situation where they don't see out the contract and it is not terminated with just cause, then you have to pay everything that you owe, even though the person doesn't finish or see out the term of the contract. But there can be mitigating factors. So this mitigating factor is, say, let's say after Ten Hag left United, for example, Manchester United did not want to pay him. You understand? Because they might have agreed a certain way of the payment instead of just paying the lump sum at once. So he got another contract with another club, just like Bayern Leverkusen. And so what they will do is that whatever it is his contract with Bayer Leverkusen, as long as it is during the term of that contract with Manchester United, they will deduct the sum of that from the one in Manchester United. Do you understand? So the idea is that they've basically mitigated what Manchester United owe him because he got another contract. So the major reason behind it is that in football, FIFA does not want a situation where people just get kicked out of job based on sporting reasons. So because a coach or a player is doing bad, then you just terminate the contract like that. No, that's not how it should work. That's why that principle exists. So unless you've found something else that is different to that, that's how it has always been, and I think that's most likely how it will always be, unless you see
That
another
the
personal.
remaining amount, the remaining amount, can it be negotiated, or is it the exact amount that was meant to be paid? Or can both parties negotiate the amount?
Yes, both parties can negotiate. So they can agree between themselves that I will leave and get this amount from you instead. So another thing is that this is actually very funny, but some of them do is that when they get another job, just because they don't or they did not negotiate, like you said, when they get another job, what they do is that let's say the contract with Manchester United is to end 2025 July. So if he ends at the end of July 2025, then Ten Hag got the job, say maybe June, July 1st, June, July 1st, 2024 rather. Now there's a 1 year gap there. So he can decide that, okay, if I'm getting so amount from you for the term of my contract, I want the least amount to be in that first year that actually runs at the same time with that Manchester United one. The reason is that I want to be able to get more from Manchester United because they failed to negotiate with me in order to get a better deal for themselves. So I will make sure that they suffer for it, and I will tell Bayern Leverkusen to pay me less at that time and pay me more after the end of that contract. I'll be after the end of that Manchester United term run out. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, sirs. We really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to take the second question from Onyedikachuku. Onyedikachuku. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, since we've not gotten a response from Onyedikachuku, we're going to take the next question from Olatunji Balogun.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Olatunji Barogun, a current level student of Ajayi Crowther University. So, I have a question to the both participants. Barrister Israel talked about like he touched on Nigerian sports entirely. So, I'm someone that is actually a fan of the Nigerian Premier Football League, and some of the issues the league is facing. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I
Can you hear
can
me,
hear
sir?
you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
And some of the issues the Nigerian Premier Football League is facing is the issues with player contracts and also the issue of players insurance. And also, you must take note that some of the clubs in Nigeria are government owned. They are run by government. What truly is the lasting solution to Nigerian sports? Because Nigerian sports as it is now, we all know that Nigerian sports as it is now is going down the drain in terms of progress generally. So what truly is the lasting solution to Nigerian sports?
Well, thank you very much. So, for me, in my opinion, there is an idiom, is there an idiom or a saying that goes that a carpenter will approach every problem with a hammer because he sees every problem as a nail, right? So I think that a lot of the problems that Nigerian football faces today are hinged on laws. And I think that in revamping of a proper judicial or of the creation or revamping of the judicial system in Nigeria will solve all of these problems, because all of these guys the anyhowness in the industry is because a lot of people know that they can get away with the anyhowness, because there are no consequences for their actions and inactions. So if there were consequences, clubs will not be terminating players' contract anyhow. They will not be terminating coaches' contract anyhow. They will follow all of the regulations. I have seen things in the industry As a matter of fact, the case that Ayodeji and I are working on in Court of Arbitration for Sports is the case of a coach that was sacked without that due payment, without the completion of his fees. So it's one of the things that was not in my bio is that it is something that we do at African Coaches Connect. We represent players, represent coaches that have been. It is not even an issue that only obtains in Nigeria. It's happening in Ghana, happening in there is one we are doing in Equatorial Guinea as well. Although the club is very, very willing to negotiate. So Equatorial Guinea, there is one in Zambia as well. So and Tanzania. So it is not particularly a Nigerian problem, but African Coaches Connect is doing a great job trying to mop out these things. So we represent these players, represent these coaches in take them to court on behalf of, because sometimes the players and coaches do not have the resources, financial resources to take this action. So we take it to court on their behalf and have them get favorable judgments. So I think that if people knew that there would be consequences for their actions and inactions, they would do better. I'm telling you that a club in Nigeria today, there are about, I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to because I may mistakenly mention names. But there is a club in Nigeria today that registered players for a competition without giving the players contracts. So the players denied ever signing a contract. But according to the law, a player must have a contract before being registered to play for the club. So that means that it is either that the NPFL did not, that's the Nigerian Premier Football League, allowed the club register the players without submitting a contract, or the club the club drafted the contract on behalf of the players and signed the contract without the players' consent and then submitted it to NPFL. It is one of the two. So, and I think that in both cases, one party should be punished. A scapegoat should be made, if you understand what I mean. So, I think it is because there's lack of consequences. That's why these things happen. And ACC is doing some level of work, trying to mop this out. As a matter of fact, ACC is actually trying to open a student body, but you can reach out to me if you want to be a member of the student body. We are still fine-tuning the details, but that can be arranged in time, because we are currently preparing for the African Football Convention in Casablanca, Morocco in December. So a lot of our hands are geared towards that. For I know that after that, we will have time for the mentorship and students initiative, because we are doing it in the University of Ibadan currently, and there are about 50 students, but about 10 have been given opportunities in the football industry. And there is a whole lot that is going on in the background. You could register with that and get into it. Although, to be fair, you may not have access to a lot of the information because of NDA. I mean, confidentiality, non-disclosure agreements, privilege of clients, and all of those. But you will definitely learn a couple of things. So that is my solution. There may be others, but mine is, let there be proper legal structures. You do anyhow, you see anyhow. They can ban you from participating in football activities, or ban you from something. Just let there be proper consequences, heavy consequences for flouting the provisions of law. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So the next question we're taking is from Amira Amusan. Amira, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Amira Amusan from Crescent University. So I've been raising my hand since. I'm happy I finally got picked. So my question is,
Sorry about that, Amira. I've been seeing your hand.
Since CAS decisions are often final, how do national courts, how do they react when a CAS ruling conflicts with their domestic public policy? Sorry, can you hear me? That's my question.
Ayodeji, do you want to take that?
I think that hardly ever happens, and The reason is that, so, everything is based on jurisdiction, like I said. And with CAS, for example, now CAS is situated in Switzerland. So everything that it works based on is usually, say, European laws. So in any situation where, say, it goes against national law, they usually take it further than that. So we see situations where, like I said, the Bosman ruling was at the European Court of Justice. Then there was a recent decision that was at the Swiss Federal Tribunal. So that really ever happens. That really ever happens. But if it does happen, that's usually where it goes to. But in a situation where, say, a Nigerian club and maybe no, a Nigerian player and like an Asian club goes to CAS for an issue, then no national law can actually come into play there because none of them are Europeans. I hope that answers your question.
All right. So, sir, is CAS
Sorry,
decisions the final?
sorry. I would also like to add that more often than not, courts and sub jurisdictions usually try to adjust to the provisions, to the current provisions of law. So let me see an example. For an example is that the Bosman ruling of 1996 that Ayodeji referenced was made in Europe, but it applies to the whole world of football today. Another example is that there is a regulation called the FIFA Football Agent Regulation. So one of the provisions of, like, a couple of agents took FIFA to court saying that the regulations, the provisions of that regulation are not properly applicable to the football industry today. And one of the courts, I think it's a court in Germany, ruled that articles 11 to 21 of the FIFA Football Agent Regulation should be suspended in Germany. So as a result of that judgment, FIFA actually suspended that article in all of football, right? There is also one very, very recently, for those of you that are familiar with Lassana Diarra, the Lassana Diarra case too was a judgment by the Court of Justice in the CJEU, Court of European Court of Justice, European Union Court of Justice, rather. As a result of that, FIFA also suspended some provisions of its regulations pending the time that they can reach a proper cohesive result. So to answer your question and to consolidate on what Ayodeji has said, the laws, it really happens, to be very fair, because all of them are under the Court of Arbitration for Sport. It's like the Supreme Court giving a judgment, and then one local government chairman is making a bylaw that goes against it. It really happens. But in the case that it does happen, effort will be made to ensure that the Court of Arbitration, the judgment of the Court of Arbitration for Sports, that the policies, or rather the statutes, the laws, the written laws that exist, follow that of the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope you're satisfied, Amira. So the next question we're going to take, please, there are a lot of questions, but we need to like reduce the questions to probably like maybe we'll take 5 more questions. I'm so sorry, Mr. Ayodeji, because we spent so much time. We spent quite a long time. So the next question we are going to take is from Uwana. So Uwana, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. My name is Akwan Uwana from University of Uyo. My question is sports. My question is about players or athletes in sports. When in a situation where they incur injuries during their respective sports sections, or football, basketball, any ball in time, and that injury causes them to, like, it causes the end of their career. After that injury, they are not able to continue playing in that sport. What laws should I say, yes, what laws helps them what laws is in favor of them not being like at that point. I don't know if a contract becomes terminated, and if it is, what laws helps them like. Please, did you, is that
Amayode, do you
am
want to
I
take that?
being
Sorry, can you come again? Are you there?
She's asking.
sir? I'm here.
Okay, you could go, please. She said that she wants to know what laws are in place to protect players that have career-ending injuries, players that are in the course of the delivery of their duties as footballers have injuries that end their careers. What laws are in place to protect them?
Good question. The thing is, issues like that are usually say with the clubs. You understand? So I think most of the time situations like that, I'm not sure if there's any law that's covering that. Israel, if you know, you can please add. But situations like that, the club usually compensates them if it is say team sports rather. But in a situation where it is say individual sports, maybe like tennis, then a lot of the time it is usually the endorsements that they have. Because in the contracts, it is always important as lawyers, for example, to put this kind of clauses into the contract because you never know what can happen. So some players also take the initiative of actually ensuring, say, parts of their body that they feel that an injury can come or they can get injured at. So if that answers your question or if Israel has anything to add.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay. We have
Sir,
just
thank you.
we have just 40 minutes to the end of this program, and so we can only take 3 questions extra, just 3 questions. So I don't know if the question I don't know if the speakers can just maybe shorten the responses, like they've given you the opportunity to send them email. So probably you can just further ask your questions in the email or something. But for now, we can only just accommodate 3 extra questions and brief responses. Thank you very much. I hope so please can we take Adeze, because Adeze
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So, sir, my question, I have 2 questions. My first question is it only this National Dispute Resolution Chamber is the only ADR mechanism in Nigeria for sports area? Then my second question is, sir, you said that it's not advisable to use ChatGPT or AI to make research on some of in task or any assignment that will be given to us in sports law. So which other resource do you use to get accurate answers? Thank you very much.
Thank you. What was the first question again?
Is it only the National Dispute Resolution Chamber is the only ADR mechanism in Nigeria?
No, no. Obviously, we have our own like ADR law in Nigeria. So I think where you got this from was the fact that I said it is important to put like ADR clauses into contracts. So, for example, you can use it based on the normal national ADR laws in Nigeria. So, like I mentioned, that you can even make sure that it is situated in wherever it is that you want it to be. But as per the NDRC now, that's only as regards to football because the NDRC is under the NFF, which is an affiliate of FIFA. You understand? But it is also important to note that so FIFA has like I think starting from or started in January this year. So they published a list of recognized NDRCs, and Nigeria is definitely not part of it. I think there are like maybe 19 countries or thereabout. So as per the NDRC, I would even advise that you put it at under the normal national alternative dispute resolution law chamber rather than the NDRC that is under the NFF, because they are going to mess your case up. So as regards the second question, okay, let me add with the first question, let me add that apart from say the national ADR and the national ADR under NFF, that's the National Dispute Resolution Chamber under the NFF, and the actual national alternative dispute resolution law in Nigeria itself, you can also make sure that you say add alternatives apart from that. So you can say that, these contracts will be bound by blah blah blah, maybe NFF dispute or the national one, and in any situation where it goes beyond that, you can add that maybe you should go to CAS or whatever it is, but CAS will be expensive. So one thing to note is that it cannot go to FIFA most of the time, because if you are doing this, then most likely it will be between, say, a Nigerian player and a Nigerian club, for example. So there's no international dimension in that kind of case. So it won't be able to go to the FIFA DRC or PSG or whatever it is. So that's why in that kind of situation, CAS will be the most important thing or the better fit after that. For the second question now, so I'm not saying that don't use ChatGPT for anything. Don't get me wrong. But one thing I always say is that even if you are making any kind of research, whatever it is that you do, and say you really cannot trust anybody but yourself, not even AI. So you should always make sure that if it says that so and so law or so and so case says this, make sure that you go and actually look at what the regulation itself says, or what the cast decision or whatever it is says. You understand? Because a lot of time it is wrong. It is usually wrong. So you can go there and find out that the article that you even like cited does not even exist in the regulation itself, or like say the cast citation that it gives you is a different case entirely. So you have to always make sure that you cross-check that. That's what I mean by that.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, can we have the last question from Atanda Elijah?
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to our speaker. I really appreciate all that you have been telling us, discussing with us this morning. So my question is bordering on if let's say there's a mother from a player to another player, maybe during a match or during a session, is it still the ADR part of the um part of the let's say it's a football match, is it still the ADR part that will handle such matter, or it will be taken with in the litigation room?
By murder, you mean like actual killing somebody, right?
Or maybe it's
Yes.
negligently or
So like a crime. The thing is,
yeah.
I get this kind of question a lot, and I actually like when I get to them, because I love the thought process. And the thing is that, so there's criminal liability, for example, and a lot of times we have to understand that criminal liability in sports is different from the normal one. So, for example, the case or the scenario that you've stated now, we definitely go to the national law of whatever jurisdiction that it happened. I don't know if you're a Manchester United fan, but I am. If you can remember a situation where, I mean, even I was not born then, but like we always like to talk about it because Cantona is a madman. So basically, he went from the pitch to go and kick a fan in the stand. You understand? So apart from the fact, obviously, that is a crime, right? So apart from the fact that it can be punished because it happened during the game, so it can be punished for that under the sports law itself. You get by the I'm getting feedback over here. Yes, so I was saying that it can be punished for that by say the FA, for example, because it happened in England, and at the same time it was charged to court by the actual national law because he committed a crime. All it took was for that guy, for example, to just like file in the report that obviously it happened live on TV, so everybody saw it. You get what I mean? So in that kind of case, it would definitely be the jurisdiction of the national court. Obviously, going from like the police report to everything, but even for the fact that it happened on field, like the scenario that you've stated now, then he might also be banned for life from sports.
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate this section. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayodeji. I don't want to pronounce the second name because I don't want to murder it again. Thank you so much, Mr. Israel. Thank you. It was such a wonderful section. Like, this is so wonderful. Like, I learned a lot. I don't know about the interns, and I know they learned a lot. If left to them, they want this section to keep going on and on and on. I know you all learned a lot today. You guys don't even want it to end, but that's not a problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Israel, for dropping your email and your phone number. So you can reach Mr. Israel via his email and phone number if you want to ask further questions, or if you need like further materials. For those of you that want to pursue a career in sport law, that's a very beautiful thing. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending today's OVIP. So we have come to the end of the section today, and I really want to appreciate every one of you for coming. So I really want us to all have a beautiful and a wonderful day ahead, and prepare yourself ahead of tomorrow's section. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
of
The case that you read.
um the accused like please use his head to eat motor, motorcycle pedal, and that was a lie. So the doctor confirmed that the injury was not the pedal and then the knife. The inches of the clinic of 1.2, 5.6, it was not really before that it had to be the dagger.
First, okay.
Then he took it to trial for trial court that he was what's the word? Was I held accountable for what he did? And then he said he was not content, took it to the court of appeal. Court of appeal said they still held the decision of the trial court and took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court still had of the trial court. So that was
So
I know, I'm not hearing anything.
was the culpable homicide.
Well, I think they're done. Everybody has left.